Last year, the spoof genre returned in spectacular fashion with the Liam Neeson-led The Naked Gun. Having grossed $102 million against a $42 million budget, it was far from a smash hit, but considering the absolute lack of any representation for spoof movies, or any cinematic wide-release comedies, it was hard to see how a critically acclaimed comedy movie which broke even could be bad for the genre in any shape, way, or form. Which is why I was rooting for the new Scary Movie to be an absolute smash. The first Scary Movie released when I was -1 year old, and much of the appeal of those films is based on time-sensitive pop culture references that you wouldn't understand if you watch it decades after the fact, so I wasn't rooting for this to succeed out of a sense of loyalty to this particular franchise, but because of a sense of loyalty to theatrical comedy releases, period. I regret to inform you that any progress made by The Naked Gun in reinterpreting spoof movies for a new generation is undone by this monstrosity of a movie. A singular kind of cinematic abomination. While there are arguably more bad movies being made today than there ever was at any point in Hollywood history, Scary Movie feels like the unearthing of a long-lost kind of cinematic incompetence. It is the inverse of a nostalgia-filled thrill ride. While a movie like Top Gun Maverick benefits from its ability to evoke all the positive feelings we associate with old-fashioned, practical blockbuster filmmaking, Scary Movie is a badly written, painfully unfunny movie made even worse by all the painfully unfunny late 2000s spoof movies whose baggage it decides to bring with it, the likes of the disaster movie and the superhero movie. It's ironic because the new Scary Movie is desperate to be a scary movie for Gen Z. It engages in topics like COVID and Me Too, its core structure is built around parodying the recent Scream reboot, and since that's not relevant enough for them, the movie even underwent reshoots to include parodies of recent horror films like Sinners and Weapons. But while 2025's The Naked Gun was content in delivering similar thrills to the original, effortlessly proving the timeless nature of its parody, the people behind Scary Movie came into this with a genuine fear of being left behind. It is a movie that is desperate to reach a hand out to Gen Z, unloading an endless barrage of low-hanging fruit, jokes about cancel culture, and a ham-fisted segment involving streamers featuring a cameo from a real-life streamer themselves. Yet, its attempt to do so are so poorly written, its jokes are a product of a time when you could convince an idiot that the biggest threat to free speech is a pink-haired college kid, that it only ends up highlighting just how dated the screenplay is. The more you try to fit in, the more you stand out for all the worst reasons, and that's what this movie does. It is the cinematic equivalent of a 30-year-old cop trying to infiltrate a high school to find the drug dealer whose attempts to fit in with the cool crowd only highlight why they never can. Scary Movie seems like a movie designed to hide behind its own lack of any ambition and integrity, to use our lack of expectations for it as a shield. The kind of movie that someone will look you dead in the eye and say, I mean, come on, it's a spoof movie. Who cares if everything from the quality to the dialogue is not that good? I mean, is it really that serious? And that is a defense I absolutely reject. In fact, I would argue there is no genre of movie that we should demand higher of than a spoof movie. These movies are built on poking fun of other movies, calling out tropes. I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but there's a little quote about how you shouldn't throw stones from a glass house. And if you're not familiar with this quote, then perhaps you're the only person I would recommend this movie to. Because this movie is the perfect example of just that. A movie that wears its incompetence on its sleeve while daring to point the finger at far superior horror films. Though I should warn you, the vast majority of the movies they said would be parodied here are essentially parodied in the form of completely unconnected SNL sketches. There's a little gag about Weapons, a little gag about Sinners, and they genuinely feel like they were just cut and pasted into this movie with no consideration as to whether they fit in with 90% of the rest of the movie, which is a straight up parody of the recent Scream reboot. And honestly, I walked away away from the movie wishing we got more of Get Out, more of Sinners, more of Weapons, because one of my biggest gripes with this franchise is the movies they send to their parody on. I genuinely can't think of a worse horror movie to spoof than Scream, cause Scream in and of itself is an incredibly meta, tongue-in-cheek horror movie. So ultimately, you're not really left parodying horror movies, you're parodying a parody of horror movies. Which makes it easier for me to say, avoid this movie at all costs, stay at home, and just rewatch Scream. As for this abomination, I'm giving it a 2 out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for weekly TV and movie reviews. And if you've had the chance to watch Scary Movie, hop in the comments and let us know what you thought about it. I'm Cinemike, and I'll see you next time.